Antonio's computer restarted, so he will join 1 minute later and we will start the meeting.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this online technology meeting on laser processes for the semiconductor industry. Sorry for this issue at the beginning that my computer decided to restart just on time. So we are joining a couple of minutes later, but I think now it will be without any other issues, and we can start the discussion on this interesting topic on where we are going with all our laser solutions and how they can be applied in different applications in the semiconductor industry. So welcome everybody to this discussion today, and I hope you will be enjoying the presentations from the different partners that we will have having presentations this afternoon. So for the ones joining that doesn't know who is EPIC about, EPIC is this group of more than 800 companies, all of them photonics companies related with different topics. We cover for quantum applications to photonic integrated circuits to medical applications, different optical components as well, and of course laser processes with different integrators using manufacturers of sources and components. So we will have different topics and different meetings to cover all these different markets and different applications within the markets. So we offer the benefits. This is a slide having a small summary of what we offer to our members. We offer access to different market reports, also support with human resources activities, support with investment as well, support with the technological needs in case somebody needs any new connection in terms of technology, and of course networking activities like the meeting that we are having today, that is a mix of understanding what is new in terms of technology from different companies, and also opportunity to network and to interact and make questions to the different speakers. I encourage you to visit our website to understand what is happening next. This is a summary of the events that we will have. We still have one online meeting before summer time about the different photonics technologies for manufacturing diode lasers, quantum cascade lasers, and the different type of semiconductor lasers. And we will continue in September with more technology meetings on optical connectors, communication for space. We will have a special meeting on scanner-based laser processing that I will mention a little bit later, and also fibers for medical applications and biomedical imaging. And regarding the physical events, we will be present in the COE in China with Epic Tech Watch there, and we will have different activities also at the ECOC in Malaga and at the W3 Fair in Jena. So if you are attending these shows, you can check in our website, because we will have networking events, also our career booths where the companies can publish the open positions, and also attract the students to visit the booths and explain what are you doing. In case this is something interesting, you can check what is planned for these two events, ECOC in Malaga and W3 Fair in Jena, and you can use the EPIC opportunity to bring and to network with other companies as well. And just shortly, as we are going to talk about laser processes, this is the next meeting that we will have on this field. We will have an in-person meeting at Amplitude facilities in Bordeaux. It will be November 4th and 5th. And we will talk about the different possibilities in terms of laser micro machining and microprocessing. So the idea is to talk about the industrial applications of ultra-fast lasers. We will divide the meeting in sessions to talk about cutting, about surface texturing, cutting and dicing, surface texturing, and then another mix of hybrid manufacturing, micro welding, and other processes, and one fourth section about components like scanners, software, laser heads, beam shaping. That is one of the topics we will cover today. And of course, semiconductor processing will be one of the topics, as many members are involved nowadays in using laser sources, integrated machines for this industry. So I think it could be a good opportunity to meet in person and discuss about the latest developments and network a little bit with companies from the whole supply chain. So I invite everybody to join us in November in Bordeaux. We will also visit different companies and laboratories in the area. It's a laser hub, so it will be very interesting to see different companies and laboratories that are what's happening there. And also related with laser processes, in October, we will have a meeting on new developments for laser cleaning and laser ablation. We will discuss about possibilities in terms of removing materials or cleaning different materials as well. This is also interesting in some applications in the semiconductor industry, for example, removing or cable stripping, removing some plastic in some cables, some connectors. So if you are interested, also I encourage you to join. And then we will have a special event related with laser processes, that is this presentation in September, where several members have been working in a book about scanner-based laser processing. So we will organize an online meeting to give them the opportunity to present where is this book about, which are the topics present there. So I think it could be interesting also for most of you to listen and to understand what's going on and what's the future of scanning-based laser processing. So we will have this online event also in September 16. And we can go now with the meeting. So this is a supply chain slide that we will share also in the website of the meeting with all the companies. So this topic attracted a lot of different companies, from users integrators, also companies doing contract manufacturer that at some point they are also somehow integrators, equipment manufacturer, components, also companies working in investing and consultancy. So we have a really nice supply chain slide this time with a lot of companies interesting. So I'm happy that this topic attracted a lot of people. And let's go already. I hope with no more delays from my side with the first speaker. So we will have time after each presentations for question and answers. You have the chat box where you can use for answering the questions. And also I encourage you to raise the hand and make the question live directly to the speaker. And we will start, as I mentioned before, that beam shaping is an interesting topic in different fields with a presentation on this topic. And we have Natan Kaplan, the CTO of the company HoloOr. So HoloOr is a company in Israel with expertise in the manufacturing of different optical components, diffractive optical elements as well, and they are going to give us their insights today in how this beam shaping can be applied in semiconductor packaging and metrology applications. So Natan, I stop sharing my screen and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Antonio, for this kind introduction. And thank you everyone for joining us. One moment, I'll share my presentation. Here it is. And today I came here to speak about laser beam shaping for semiconductor packaging and wafer inspection applications. One second. Okay. So for those less familiar with us, I'm the CTO of HoloOr. We are located in Israel, and we have more than 37 years of experience in the production of components for laser industry, mostly for high-end applications, high power applications, covering more or less everything from the aesthetic markets through the industrial market, semiconductors, glass cutting, inspection, and various scientific applications. I will not tell you everything about HoloOr, just that we moved to our new location 3 years ago with the new facilities that have a good production capability. And we have a lot of experience in the various applications, including semiconductor, which has grown significantly in the last 10 years, I would say, with especially strong boost in the last 2 years, with many applications growing. Since this is a short talk, I will not show an outline, but generally I will just say what are diffractive optical components and beam shaping solutions in general. And then I will go into several applications in beam shaping of lasers that are used in semiconductor packaging and cover what we can offer for them and what we think you can do for us, what we can do for you, the usual epic question. So beam shapers, at least the ones that HoloOr produces, are transmissive components fully etched into the glass, typically fused silica. For mid-IR, we use zinc selenide, and they are fully transmissive. They have no absorption, and they can shape the wavefront of the light using phase shaping. We originally and still mostly specialize in diffractive beam shaping, which is tuned to a certain wavelength of the laser, but we can also offer refractive solutions or complex solution combining both diffractive and refractive components, as you will see, that are tailored to a certain solution or a certain application. Now, generally, DOEs have a great advantage for semiconductor applications because they are produced in lithographic methods using exposure and etching. They have basically no angular tolerance or negligible angular tolerance, so they're very precise, which is what is needed in the very sensitive semiconductor processes that are, as you will see, are becoming more and more demanding in this market. Now, what can you do with HoloOr solution or beam shaping in general? So in general, beam shaping can realize several optical functions, but these can usually be also mixed. The classic functions are beam splitting, as you see here. If you will see my pointer, we can split a beam into multiple beams arranged in any arrangement. For semiconductors, it is usually in a one-dimensional array with very precise separations. And this can be used to increase throughput with the same laser. If you have a lot of laser power, as lasers are becoming more powerful, you can simultaneously scan multiple channels. We can use beam shaping to change the spot from a Gaussian natural spot. Usually these are single mode lasers with a Gaussian spot or semi-Gaussian spot. So we can change it into a flat top with sharp edges, which is very important for many processes in semiconductor packaging. It gives you clean ablation. And there are focal manipulations we can do, including simple Bessel beams and also modified Bessel beams that generate a depth of focus that is much greater than the Rayleigh depth, while maintaining the lobe as a diffraction limited spot, which is very useful for various applications in transparent materials such as glasses, that are now becoming very common in semiconductor, all the glass core substrates and the interposers that are becoming more and more common in semiconductor production and packaging. So without further ado, I'll go to the first application that is becoming quite demanding in the industry, and this is silicon wafer grooving and trenching for packaging. So once you produce your device, it is now very common, instead of using simple oxidation on top of it, to use low-K dielectrics, which have much better behaviors in terms of electrical permittivity, but they have, of course, very bad mechanical behaviors. If you try to dice them directly under the mechanical saw, you have delamination, and it usually hurts the devices on the silicon. So what a lot of producers of laser machines do is, of course, you do pre-grooving using the laser, and initially grooving was done with just the Gaussian beam, and it sort of works, especially for broad streets. Originally, streets were 120 microns, even more sometimes. But as we're moving to denser and denser packaging, streets are becoming narrower, 60 microns, 30 microns. And there you do not have the room to lose. The Gaussian tail of the beam is too destructive. So you need to shape the beam into a flat top beam, a small flat top beam, requiring very precise shaping, which is usually achievable mostly by diffractive optics, because to shape very small angles, few diffraction limits, it's not really practical in most other methods. And of course, you want more throughput. So you do not want to just groove one. You can groove them with very precise separations, and this can all be done by a single diffractive optical element. It can combine the beam shaping and the beam splitting functions into a single element. Typically, we make such in UV or green wavelengths, but can be in any wavelength that is process appropriate. It creates an array of flat tops. Typically, the shapes are rectangles, few tens of microns in the long dimension. And these shapes are then scanned over the surface to give you higher throughput, because you're multiplying grooving speed, and better yield because of the sharp edges. There is much less delamination. The area that is affected, the heat affected zone and the delamination zone, is much less. And this is one of the main solutions of beam shaping that HoloOr provides to the semiconductor grooving and trenching application. And there are quite a lot of laser machines that are moving towards more channels, higher throughput, as the industry moves forward to demand of faster and faster and more dense packaging. Another group of applications that is very hot right now, I would say, and I see quite a lot of publications on that, is the true glass via drilling. Again, the demands of power centers and advanced AI chips are for substrates that can handle much less warpage, so glass core substrates, and interposers that are made of glass and are great isolators and very stable thermally, instead of silicon or other types of interposers. So these pose new challenges, because you now need to drill millions of holes per panel at very high rates. And also afterwards, with the chemical etching, after drilling these holes, you usually want to have the true glass vias very stable, around 50 to 100 microns with little taper at the start and the end. Now, generally, this is done by some way to elongate the energy of the laser through the transparent material. If you just try to focus the spot to a spot of 50 microns, you will not reach the energy density necessary to modify the material over the entire bulk. So what is generally done is using a bezel beam generated by typically just an axicon or a diffractive axicon. But these types of beams, they do have a good depth of focus and a small lobe over the entire depth, but their energy changes. As you can see here in the graph, as you go to the depth of the material, there is an increase in energy and then a drop in energy. And what this does to the true glass via is, first of all, the process is less stable. You need to work in a part of this area and you're wasting a lot of energy. And of course, the taper is more sensitive because the energy is changing in this sort of filamentation line or modification line that you will later on etch. So our solution for that in HoloOr is we produced the flat top in Z called the Deep Cleave, which is a family of modules that are basically already both an objective and a beam shaper that creates a uniform depth of focus line along a range that can be, depending on the material you want to work on, from around 0.3 millimeter to 3 millimeter. and they exist in various wavelengths from the IR to down to green, and even now we have a new series in the UV. And they are highly useful for true glass via processing, as they make the process much more stable because the diameter does not change so much. The energy is stable over the Z range. Another application where beam shaping plays quite a lot of role is, again, in the terms of glass core interposer singulation. Because now you have these glass core interposers, you need to somehow remove from them the copper lines and the ABF films on both surfaces. And one of the, let's say, best ways to do that by laser is a two-stage process. First, you need to somehow groove the sensitive layers so that when you dice the glass itself, they do not delaminate. And this is usually done with some sort of beam-shaped, as we spoke previously, usually a rectangle with sharp edges. And then you need something with a depth of focus that can cut through the interposer with a good uniformity of lobe. And there we have a different solution called the VB module, because these interposers come in various thicknesses from 80 microns to up to sometimes even 300 microns, 200 microns. And the VB module is similar to the deep cleave, but it does not do this Z type of flat top shaping. Instead, you can play with the depth of focus while maintaining the same lobe. This allows you to adjust it for different interposer thicknesses. And in this way, you can work with the same module for various lines of interposers or adjust the process exactly to the thickness of the glass you need. So again, a two-stage process, both stages using beam shaping. One, beam shaping at the plane where you create a flat top. The other one, manipulation along the depth of focus to dice the interposer. Another application where beam shaping is useful in semiconductor is in the debonding from the carrier. Now, you have a lot of very thin layers during semiconductor production, which are glued to a carrier wafer or base plate. And of course, you cannot remove them by point-to-point scanning. And usually, these are very sensitive gluings. And if you use too much energy, you go into the active layer and you destroy devices. So there are, let's say, two families of solutions, but in both types, you need to generate a line scan with very good uniformity and scan over the surface to debond the adhesive with a very controlled manner so that everything is both debonded, but also you do not go into the active layer. Lately, we're seeing more and more interest in single mode shaping into large lines, even 100 millimeter because single mode laser power is becoming more and more available for such applications. And there, again, we have shapers. Typically, they are refractive shapers, but again, single element shapers that can generate at such a line with a good uniformity that you can then scan it over the surface and achieve good debonding. For multi-mode cases, we offer a solution based on M-squared transformation where you rearrange the M-square so that the beam has a lower M-square in the line direction, the narrow direction, and the high M-square in the long direction. And then you can, again, use such a line from a multi-mode laser to achieve good energy density for debonding along the scan and the wafer. And one of the, let's say, strongest applications where we are seeing huge demand in the, I think, last 3 years is wafer metrology, especially bare wafer metrology before processing to evaluate various defects, but of course also metrology when there are devices. Now, one of the most, let's say, challenging tasks for this is to project a line on the surface of the wafer at an angle that is usually very grazing. It's something like 20 degrees to the wafer or around that range. This is used for dark field microscopy, basically, typically at the UV wavelengths. And this is one of the best ways to detect very small defects using a laser light. And the problem is that, of course, you want a uniform signal. You want a flat top intensity along your line so that any defect will generate the same signal and the system has a good dynamic range. But it is not so trivial to focus a flat top line on such a surface because the focus of one edge of the line and the focus of the other edge of the line can have a difference in depth of focus of several millimeters, while the line's thickness is often several tens of microns. This is not trivial shaping. It's not just like shaping on a plane. HoloOr can find a solution for that, and we have solutions for that. These are usually tailored solutions for a certain application, certain illumination, typically in the UV wavelengths where the laser is shaped and focused at different planes depending on where you are on the line, so that on the surface you have a flat top line. This allows for uniform scanning, eliminates position-dependent detection variance, and improves the semiconductor metrology system overall performance, and is very, let's say, critical for such systems. We see a lot of interest in them lately. So I've just given you a few tastes about how laser beam shaping is used in the semiconductor industry. Yes, especially with the increase in advanced packaging solutions requiring glass interposers, glass core substrates, and the low KD electric layers that are very hard to remove before dicing, laser processors are becoming essential. You basically cannot process these just directly with the saw. And as laser processing is becoming essential, you also find out that you cannot work just with the Gaussian beam, at least for many of these applications. So laser beam shaping plays a pivotal role, both for the quality, which means the yield of the process, and for the throughput by splitting the beam or by allowing for more efficiency in the terms of depth cutting. So as I expect packaging complexity to increase with the demand for more computing power, for more complex semiconductor structures, it is most likely that the demand for both laser processing in general and beam shaping would continue to increase and give us new interesting challenges to deal with HoloOr. So I'll come to the classic ethics question that everyone needs to answer. What can HoloOr do for you, and what can you do for HoloOr if you're interested in laser beam shaping? Basically, HoloOr, as you saw, can provide various high LDT optical solutions for laser-based semiconductor packaging and inspection. We, let's say, know our stuff. You define the optical functions or the requirements, and we can usually find the design. Often it is not even custom, it's standard, but depends on the case. We can simulate our optical performance in your setup. We can give Zimex black boxes, or you give us your black box, and we add our solution and give you the performance. And we can solve various beam shaping challenges using complex modules that combine both diffractives and refractives, like the deep cleave of the VB module. And what can you do for HoloOr? First of all, you can give us challenges. Yes, give us your beam shaping challenges to overcome so we can find the solution. We can, of course, do application tests. This is something we're always interested in. If you're willing to publish results, we are willing to consider cooperations where we give optical elements at cost or sometimes at some discount, and we together publish the results. And of course, we like cooperation in European projects, including the Horizon framework, where we are currently in a project called BURST in the photovoltaic field. So we're always looking for opportunities to cooperate with European companies and other companies in, let's say, broader scoped projects where we can be the beam shaping part and can bring our expertise to bear. Thank you very much. And I hope I'm in time. I have not checked. I think I'm in time. And you're welcome to ask questions.
Thank you, Natan. So as Natan mentioned, we have time for questions, so you can raise your hand or make your question directly in the box as well. Yeah, Celia.
Hi, Natan.
Hi.
Thanks for your presentation. Two probably stupid questions. The first one on the debonding for the interposer from the rest of the wafer. Why a line and not a rectangle to go even faster?
Okay, so I'll give you the two answers to that. One, because this is what the customers want. I don't know, in this case. No, and generally, some do want a rectangle. So you are right in that. Depends on exactly what you are sacrificing. Because in general, if you make the line as thin as possible and you are above the, let's say, the bonding threshold, then you're wasting energy by making it thicker. You're just integrating. Yeah, you're not gaining anything. You're going to move through that area anyway. But of course, yes, generally these lines have thickness. It doesn't have to be flat top thickness because you are anyway averaging over them. Yeah, so we usually shape in the long axis. In the narrow axis, we just leave it as a Gaussian beam. It can be defocused sometimes to control the thickness.
Okay. And my second question, and then I stop. I didn't get on the wafer metrology what you are probing,
Okay.
what people can probe with the laser.
So generally, it's usually used for bare wafer inspection to check for scratch dig particles, impurities, etc. Again, this is our customers, not us. They do not share the fine details of what they do. But generally, it is used for bare wafer inspection and at good resolution and speed, which is quite needed in the semiconductor industry.
Okay, thanks, Natan.
Thank you.
We have another question from Cedric from Eponics.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Thank you for your presentation, Nathan. What wavelength ranges or different wavelengths are you able to design your beam shaping optics and fabricate them reliably?
We can design from 193 nanometers up to 10,600 nanometers. No, seriously, and also fabricate in this range. But of course, for the semiconductor industry, typically most customers are from the 248 nanometers to the IR. Yeah, that's most of the cases.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any other question for Natan? Well, if not, we thank again. And Natan, perhaps you can put your email in the webinar chat, email address, so people interested can reach you afterwards as well. And thank you for the nice presentation this afternoon.
Thank you.
And we can move now to our second speaker this afternoon. So we have Celia Millon. She's the CEO and the founder of the company RayVen Lasers. RayVen is a company based in Germany developing compact lasers at the 2-micron wavelength. And she's going to present how this wavelength in ultrafast lasers can be used for semiconductor processing. So Celia, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Is everyone seeing my screen?
Yeah, we see the
Hear me
screen.
well?
Yes.
All good? Fantastic.
Everything good.
All right. So I will start with a few words on RayVen first. So RayVen Laser GmbH is located in Germany, close from Düsseldorf, so not far away from the Netherlands border. And we are a spin-off from the Ruhr-Universität Bochum group. But we are since now a year in our own facility, and where we have 80 meters square of our own laser lab and so on. So a very short history, just to remind you that we are newborn in the landscape. So we begin the spin-off project in 2024 with the first MVP. That was an oscillator. I will briefly give the specs. We incorporated the company last year, with our first pilot users and first customer also last year. And this year was some sort of a pivot. And we developed a 2.1 micron amplifier. And all this is supported by the team that you are seeing here. So we are rather small still, but meaning that we are flexible in how and when we can deliver our product. So you might have understood, we focus on, yes, it works. We focused on 2.1 micron ultra-fast laser. As I mentioned very briefly, we have two main products. The first one is an oscillator, so 70 megahertz, 1 watt, roughly 100 femtosecond, 2.1 micrometer central wavelength, 10 nanojoule. This oscillator was built mostly for gas sensing. And very quickly, we figured out that people were interested in a higher energy system. This is why we slowly but surely pivot to this second product. So here you see what is actually available currently. So a 3-watt average power, 1.3 picoseconds. You can go up to almost 100 microjoule, between 40 and 200 kilohertz. Why this need towards higher energy? The very initial motivation was mostly for scientific purpose, to generate XUV, mid-IR. You have some DFK processes in highly nonlinear crystal type chalcogenide that works very well with this driving wavelength. And also for terahertz generation. So you see here like the need of 2 micron for reaching at the end different other part of the spectrum. But it turns out that most of our attraction were driven by the semiconductor processing. So this is why what we are going to focus on today. And why? Because you are in the transparency region of silicon at 2 micron. It starts at 1.5, but you are in this range. And this is, of course, of great interest for various applications. I would like to maybe underline one thing. The silicon start to be transparent at 1.5. But if you think about germanium, for example, you really need to go beyond 1.95 micrometer to be able to be transparent. So here you see that there is an interest in being above 2 micron. So the beauty to be transparent is that you can either go through and work behind the silicon, or if you focus down, you can actually with very little energy generate some nonlinear effects and inscribe directly in the bulk of the silicon without damaging the surface. This was maybe for the more scientific, if I can say, part of it. So what does it mean in terms of application? Like, what can we do? So if you go through, you can delaminate, you can bond, debond. If you focus down and stay inside the volume, you can imagine applications such as through silicon via, dicing, not to say stealth dicing, and of course, this type of structure where you could imagine waveguides or such a thing directly implanted inside the silicon. Not saying we are doing all that, but this is the promise. What I think is also very interesting to have for, in general, the field of the semiconductor is the material versatility that we can process thanks to 2 micron. So of course, the beauty is that you can work in the silicon, but you can still process glass, and you are very absorptive in some polymers, which also is interesting for co-packaged optics, heterogeneous integration, and so on. So the rest of the presentation is only about a few feasibility study or trials we have done for our customer in our lab facilities. So in our facilities, we have like some sort of R&D system that we only use for serving our customer when they want to process their samples. So part of our activities is not only selling the laser standalone, but also to serve customer via feasibility study. They send the sample, we process them, we feed back, or they come directly to our facilities and they can try whatever they want, usually before they get a demo system or a full system. The slides are available afterwards, so we'll not go into the details of the parameters. Just to show you that will it work? Yes. So we have a sphere microscope, so we can see while we are processing inside the silicon what we are doing. So you can see here a structure that we are inscribing. Without surprise, this is the R of RayVen that you will see everywhere now on the slide. So I will give you just a small samples of what we are able to do. So as I mentioned, we can do processing inside Sapphire. Here you can see a resolution test that we have made with a very clean structure. And then we're going to switch to silicon. And here you will see what we can do on the surface, in the volume, and in the backside. Again, this is what we are doing for our customer. And like Natan mentioned, I mean, we are providing not the beam shaping, but the laser. And this is just a taste of what our customer wants or what we are doing for them. So fine scribing on the surface of silicon, but this you're going to tell me, okay, Celia, you can do that with a 1 micron system, sure. But where they were mostly interested in is to do some lips on the surface mostly for having anti-reflecting structure. And they were interested in using 2 micron to have a 2 micron period on the top of the samples. Another application that was made in collaboration with the Fraunhofer, one of the Fraunhofer, is the pre-thinning of samples before a focus ion beam. Focus ion beam just remove extremely tiny layer of nanometric scales. It's extremely expensive. And they were looking for a tool to do the pre-thinning at micrometer scales before they send the samples into the focus ion beam. So this is what also we have done for them. They were happy. Now let's go inside the sample. And here we have some subsurface modification of silicon. So here you see a laser source operating at 40 kilohertz. And each increment, we go slightly deeper into the material by step of 15 microns. And the resulting modification observed were from the surface here to roughly 200 micrometer with lengths between 50 to 100 micrometers. So this is, of course, just simple modification. We haven't investigated that much, but this is a good demonstrator for doing through silicon vias later on. And finally, we can go backside. So here what you are seeing is the front side of the silicon. You can see that here it's pristine. Here we have the modification in the backside. This is just darkening, but we have also made some amorphization behind the sample, but I couldn't share it with you today. It's still under investigation in the University of Kassel. And my last application is also some backside modification, but just to show you that we can go through 9 millimeters of silicon. I will not go into the details of what was it for, and you can see that we can also process directly inside the cube, thanks to our systems. I think my time is more than done. So I will just finish by saying that what you have seen, it shows that the lips can be used for functional application of the surface. The inside modification, we are going towards through silicon via. Backside modification towards bonding and delamination using 2 micron. And have a look on our ongoing project. We have an EIC Pathfinder, Stay To Me, where we develop a 2 micron high repetition rate laser for through silicon vias. And we have 2 other projects that are focusing on polymer processing and silicon processing. And I will stop here.
Thank you very much, Celia, for presenting the work that you are doing with your source. So we have again time for questions. Yeah, Cedric again.
Yeah, one quick question. Do you have enough control over energy deposition to perform refractive index modifications? Or do you limit yourself to machining or etching?
So in our facilities, we don't do that, but we collaborate for this modification. So for creative waveguide, for example, where you really need to control very precisely the index of refraction modification, this is done by collaborators.
Any other question for Celia? Yeah, Natan.
So just for the pre-ion beam milling, is there a special advantage to using the 2.1 micron wavelength?
There was some structure in silicon behind the
So it's behind the structure, like.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, they wanted to try if they were able to if you use 1 micron, basically we're getting absorbed in structure that they didn't want to get absorbed in. That was the only advantage.
Thank you.
Any final question? Perhaps a short question from my side is regarding the platform you have nowadays with the source. Do you think the parameters are enough for what you are doing, or are you planning to expand in terms of energy, perhaps thinking in different pulse widths, how they can also improve the processes? So how do you see the future, Celia?
So I have a few demands for higher energy purpose. So going up to roughly 200 microjoule. This is where it's more than enough for drilling, for TSV application, and so on. And this is very, very easily achievable with our system. I just gave like what is currently on shelves, but if you want 200 micron, I just pump harder, and here you go. And the second big topic that we are working on is the repetition rate, not the pulse duration. Pulse duration is fine for most of the applications that I've been asked for, but repetition rate, of course, you always want to have processes that go faster.
Yeah, this is always the question. Okay, good to know that. Where are your goals for the future as well? Good. So I don't see any other questions. So again, thank you very much, Celia, for being here this afternoon. And as I mentioned to Natan, perhaps you want to write your email in the webinar chat. And if somebody wants to reach you in the next days, he has the address already. So thank you. And we can move now to our third speaker. So it's a pleasure to introduce Maurice Clair. He's a leader technology in innovation management and 3D Micromac. 3D Micromac is a German manufacturer of different micromachining machines, also based on ultrafast laser. And he's going to present the from full field to single spot laser-based processing for microelectronics. So Maurice, the floor is yours. You can share your screen now.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. So first, who are we, 3D Micromac? Some of you know us already. We're a special purpose machine building company, which is basically working on topics that come from our customers. They have ideas on how to generate a process, how to implement a process into the production chains. And then we work on them together with the process development, see if the laser is a viable solution for them. And then next, what we do typically is we go to a volume production, from prototype to volume production, like ramp up, support, or qualification, to show that it's really feasible, that it can be repeated, that it's not just one shot, which worked once. And then we go to the actual industrial machines we built it. And the question that is always posed in these meetings, what can EPIC do for us? What can we do for EPIC? I would like to answer that right in the beginning. Our technology spectrum is very broad. In general, we have over 60 technologies, 60 laser technologies implemented into production over the past 10 years. So we are really broad spread, but this is only possible because of our partners. This includes our customers, it includes all our suppliers. We are very technology agnostic. We use all kinds of processes, all kinds of laser sources, and the least of them are within the company. So we don't do our own laser sources, we don't do our own special optics. We always take what is best for the current solution, which actually works for the customer's business case. And this is again the question to you. If you have any ideas what you could do with a laser, but you need a machine to do it, talk to us. We can utilize our network. You can become part of our network. It's all only possible together as a group to do what we are doing, especially in a productive environment. I mentioned in total 60 technologies. Today, I'm basically going to give you a brief presentation on 5 of them, which are used for microelectronics. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more. Besides microelectronics, we are also very strong in medical industry, in photovoltaics, especially flexible substrates, everything from electronics to medical and so on. So we are very strong there. So there's a lot more that we are doing. I cannot present everything today. What I'm going to do today is focus on these 5 topics that are shown here, starting with a chemical process, ohmic contact formation and semiconductor, going on to a physical annealing process, then an ablative process, but very high precision with laser link trimming, and then going to other types of technologies using excimer lasers for laser lift-off or lift process, and then sample preparation, funny enough, as it was mentioned in the previous talk, where we also have a very strong product available. Starting with the first one, which is full field. This is a process which is happening on the complete wafer. What we are doing here is we take a silicon carbide wafer. For those of you who don't know, silicon carbide is one of the upcoming materials for power electronics next to gallium nitride. The specialty in this is that we are at the back end of process, meaning that the front side of the wafer is completely processed, the wafer is thinned down, and only then are we doing the annealing step. And after our annealing step, the only steps remaining are the backside metal deposition and the dicing to the chips. So basically, we are working on a almost fully finished wafer. We do this with wafers currently up to 8-inch. The market is now slowly targeting 12-inch silicon carbide wafers, which are now available from China, but they are far from production so far. And this is, in general, a very coarse process. The actual positioning accuracy of 10 micron, nobody cares about. As you can see, the whole wafer is processed with an edge exclusion of around about 1 millimeter. And what we use is a UV nanosecond laser. We have different nanosecond pulse durations to adjust the physical result of the chemical reaction. There are some diffusion processes involved. And most importantly, there are two beam profiles which we can basically provide. We can A, have a Gaussian beam, or B, a top head. What's the benefit of the top head? It's simply that the energy distribution is better and that you have more effective energy available for the actual chemical reaction, because you don't over-exceed like in the Gaussian, and the uniformity of the layer is slightly better. And we all do this in combination with a scanner system. So this is not a fixed optic system. The sample is not moving, and we do this under a defined atmosphere of less than 500 ppm. Some customers even go down to, let's say, 20 or less than 100 ppm. So this is like one of the most coarse processes that we have. Although in detail, the beam shaping, the stability of the process, and the uniformity of the resulting layer are actually a different topic, but from a positioning perspective, this is actually one of the most coarse systems that we have. Getting more into positioning accuracy, we have developed a technology together with a customer and the Fraunhofer next to us, where we do TMR and GMR sensors. Those sensors are nowadays on every smartphone and every electronics device. They are used to either measure currents of devices, for example, for power electronics, or the location of the device within the space.
So, jetzt aber. Gut.
And we are doing this on by now 12-inch wafers with 300 millimeter diameter. And what we here do is an annealing step, but it's not a chemical annealing where we change the chemistry on the surface like in the last one, but we do it physical annealing. And we actually expose the sample to a strong magnetic field of 600 millitesla. And while we are moving the wafer underneath the fixed optic, we selectively emit laser pulses, heat up the material above Curie temperature, and the material cools down very fast because the energy is deposited very locally. So what you do is basically you freeze the magnetic field which the wafer was exposed to at that point in time. And this is giving us the opportunity now it's depicted in the bottom. If you look at the die, on this die, you have this Wheatstone bridge, and in this Wheatstone bridge, you need either 2 or 4 different directions of your magnetic field. We can do up to 32 in the end, but most these designs use a Wheatstone bridge with 2 or 4 orientations. And what we basically do is we rotate the magnetic field and we process the wafer multiple times. And what you end up with is an in-device GMR TMR sensor, which previously had to be processed separately and then per pick and place had to be put together. This now can all be miniaturized and implemented directly into the actual electronics device. Subsequently, we of course need a higher positioning accuracy. Here we are talking about plus minus 2.5 micron with 3 sigma. So 1 sigma of give or take less than a micron. And the typical laser source that we use here is a simple IR laser, because the only task is to locally heat up the material, the volume. Those layers are typically deposited underneath the surface. So you don't want the surface absorption, you want to absorb in the actual metallic layer, which has the magnetic function. Yeah. And going even further regarding precision, this is the latest tool which we presented on the last laser trade fair. It's also designed for 300mm wafers. But here we go down to laser spot sizes from 2 to 6 microns, so very precise. The depth of focus is less than 1 micron for the process that we are running. And we are processing the wafers with a very high speed of 400 millimeters per second and very high accelerations. But the actual positioning accuracy that we need for the actual process of the link terming is plus minus 200 nanometers 3 sigma. So standard deviation in X and Y combined is 60 nanometers in the system. So it's a very high precision, very high speed system, simply because those links that are shown in the bottom right, they are very small, but you have to hit them really precisely to A, not damage neighboring links, but also to make sure that the metal is completely evaporated from the system. So this is like right now the most accurate system that we've built thus far. I'm saying thus far. Followed, and this is the same correction. This is now a complete different technology. Up to now, it's been solid state or fiber lasers, but we are also very strong in excimer laser processes. We are very good in the laser liftoff, similar to what was shown in the first presentation with the line beam, where the delamination was done. We also have excimer-based systems for that. And we took this one step further. We have an excimer tool with a mask projection area of 8 by 2 millimeters, so 16 square millimeters per individual laser pulse. And in this area, you can basically select if you want to expose the whole area to the excimer pulses, or if you just want to have a selective areas which have a lateral resolution of less than, I think, 3 micron from the mask projection. And we can do all of that with a positioning accuracy of plus minus 2 micron. And the basic idea what this was developed for was micro LEDs, so that you can transfer the micro LEDs grown on a sapphire wafer to your target substrates, which typically are glass panels in the range of 450 times 450 square millimeters. And then you can basically select, okay, because you have to address the pitch of your production to the pitch of your device, you can then address, do you want to have just one of those areas transferred, or do you want everything transferred? There are all kinds of designs available. And the smallest die sizes that we've transferred are 25 micron, so around about 5 by 5 micron. And if you do the calculation, how many of those are in an area of 8 by 2 square millimeters, we are talking about a transfer rate of millions per hour, or no, per minute actually, which was the target value for production in the micro LED business, because the basic idea was and is to basically build very large displays like smartphone displays out of this technology. Exactly. And in order to do that, we have a positioning accuracy which is also nice, plus minus 2 micron. In theory, it's a little bit worse than the other tool with 3 sigma, but here you have to remind ourselves that we not only have one wafer which needs to be positioned, but we have the target donor and the donor. So we have 2 complete independent coordinate systems on top of each other, and they have to be very close to each other. We talk about transfer gaps in the range of 50 to 100 micron, so in lateral direction, and in the total XY direction, plus minus 2 micron. Otherwise, you would not have a successful transfer of the micro LEDs. So also a very nice system. Last but not least, also nice success story. Again, it was mentioned in the previous presentation. And we have our microprep tool, which is also a development. Again, we need partners for that. This was a basic idea of a Fraunhofer Institute, a different one from the previous call, which had the idea to speed up their material analysis by ion beam by installing a laser process in between or upfront the ion beam tool. And we, in the beginning, developed it only for SEM, sample preparation, but give developers a tool to play around with, and their ideas explode. So today we are doing a lot of applications, and the minority of those are SEM, sample preparations. So it's now for atomic probe and for cross-sectioning, for all kinds of technologies, for all kinds of markets. And we now introduced a new product which basically supports larger wafers and PCB sizes, the Microprep L, to be able to not only do this on small pieces 4 by 4 millimeters or 20 by 20, but also have like large PCBs, 200 by 200 millimeters, for example, which can be put into the machine, and then you can basically select which area you want to analyze, and you can do your cross-section there, or your sample preparation directly from that. We have the workflows automated and customized, so we are very well aligned with the ion beam. So the usability of this tool is very close to that of an ion beam. So if you can operate an ion beam, you can basically also operate a microprep, because we are not like a new tool. We basically have to fit into the workflow of the ion beam. And we have integrated all kinds of in situ monitoring and analysis for you to ease up the process. And the basic idea, and it's shown on the right-hand side, if you do a sample with the ion beam, it can take you 2 to 20 hours. But because our ablation rate of the laser is higher by a factor of, I think, 10,000 or so, depending on the material, but significantly faster, you can basically speed up every process to less than 60 minutes. And the majority of the time is then still putting in the sample, preparing the recipe, starting the process, and so on. And here also some images of those 3 examples, like on the top right, you can see a chunk with an TEM lamella. You can see the atomic probes, and the basic functionality of the laser, which is giving you the freedom to just ablate more material, is giving you also the freedom to do more analysis on the same or larger area in the same amount of time. So basically, I'm always saying, like, if you have an ion beam tool and you want to speed up your analysis, you want to collect more data, you should actually think about getting a microprep tool instead of a second flip, because we can speed up your process by a factor of 10, and we can also provide you some sample preparations which you cannot do with a second flip tool. So to sum things up, we have a very broad spectrum of tools. This is only, again, for the microelectronics market, where we distinguish between processed areas within a amount of time, so large area processes versus, for example, our link trimming tool, which is the highest resolution, but also lowest area per second, I would say, as a metric. Again, we have a very broad spectrum, and again, we are technology agnostic. Each of these platforms, each of these tools is designed to be equipped with other technologies. So if you have any idea for a technology which needs a coarse positioning on a wafer or very fine positioning on a wafer, contact us. If we are very open to all the ideas that are out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maurice, for the summary and the nice examples that you mentioned. So we have time again for questions. So you can raise your hand again. Yeah, Cedric.
Thank you for your presentation, Maurice. What is the typical best resolution you can achieve in positioning? You mentioned down to 200 nanometers during the presentation. Are you able to go more accurate than that?
So this is right now, like, we have 200 nanometers in an XY system with 3 sigma. So the actual, if you say positioning accuracy is 1 sigma, we are talking about 60 nanometers in X and Y combined. Right now, this is, I think, the best that we can do. There are some ideas to improve on that, but actually only marginally. So we're not talking about 10 nanometers or so. And this is also not only because of the positioning system, but also because of the measurement and drift effects.
Any other question?
In this link trimming application, have you considered multiplying it with a multispot? I know I'm
yes, it is considered. We know that there are some applications where at least the dual beam could be benefited. For example, in this example, on the left-hand side, you can see basically that there are always 2 dots per link, which are used to ensure that the links are actually separated. Right now, in the current version, this is an early image where we just did feasibility studies. Right now, we are only using 1 link because the process reliability could be improved, that we don't have to do a double scan to be sure that it's isolated. But we are actually thinking about it, we thought about it, and we are discussing with the customers potential applications. I think the biggest question in this case is like positioning accuracy is immediately going to be impacted, because now I get a rotary error, which I don't have prior to that. Correct. And also the rotation not only in the axis, but out of axis. So I mentioned earlier that we only have a depth of focus of 1 micron for this process. So this is also going to be reduced. So we are thinking about it, but right now we don't see the, let's say, necessity.
And depth of focus increase is not useful for you because you need the energy. You cannot smear.
No, we do have enough energy, but depth of focus increase is, we know your solutions. We also thought about it, but you also typically lose lateral resolution.
Yeah.
So and that's
you
it's
have
not much.
some, yeah.
I know it's not much, but you lose some. And again, the specification is 2 micron for the lowest, and that's already, again, we're doing that with an IR laser. So 2 micron with an IR laser is not that.
It's challenging. Thank you.
Any final question for Maurice? Well, if not, thank you again for being here and showing all these examples. And as I mentioned to the previous speaker, if you can write your email address there in the webinar chat, people can reach you afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. We can move now to our next speaker. And it's a pleasure to have today Louis-Rafael Robichaud. He's the CEO of the company Femtum in Canada. So Femtum is a company developing fiber lasers in mid-infrared wavelengths, and he's going to present the working laser processes for silicon photonics and advanced packaging manufacturing. So Louis-Rafael, I see that you already shared the screen, so the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. The sound is great.
Everything good, yes.
Perfect. It's a great pleasure to be here. My name is Louis-Rafael. I'm the co-founder and CEO. I'm a technical CEO, so I have a master in lasers and physics engineering degree. So let me talk about what we do at Femtum and where we are today. Semiconductor is booming, especially silicon photonics. And we'll talk about what Femtum does for helping the manufacturing of silicon photonics. And in a world where silicon photonics is now the constraint of AI infrastructure, so the goal today is really to connect those GPUs at scale, and the interconnect in the silicon photonics is really the constraint. So in this world, the most expensive chips are the one that doesn't yield, or the one that never ships. And we're basically tackling those applications where, and we'll talk about this today, but on laser cleaning and laser trimming. So in silicon photonics, fundamentally change the full supply chain, because now you need accuracies that are very stringent, and the level also of cleanliness are very, very high compared to standard electronics. So today, if we compare basically electronics and silicon photonics, and everybody knows that AI is very booming, and everybody talks about CPO, co-packaged optics, HBM, all those very advanced manufacturing and advanced packaging technologies. But fundamentally, when you look at the cost structures, CMOS is very mature, and it's very rugged because electrons are very rugged. And photonics, these things need super accuracy. I mean, down to 100 nanometers, and even more when you're at the wafer level. So what happens is now that the wafer yield, when you test those chips at the wafer test, the yield is between 50 and 80% compared to 99%. And when you also compare the yield of the assembly, so after the first wafer level test, and you're going through the assembly lines and the packaging lines, the yield is up to 70%, and can be way lower depending of the type of photonics. But what is very dramatic is also the fact that the machines are very slow. When you look at test and assembly, the UPH, the unit per hour, drops below 100. So you have less than 100 units per hour per machines, which makes total silicon photonics way more expensive than electronics. So it's more than 10 times as we speak compared to electronics. And it's a fundamental thing about the value of silicon photonics. The cost is the denominator here. So if the cost is high, you need to be able to solve the manufacturing yields in throughput. So at Femtum, we really focus on fixing peaks, so to recover the yield of advanced manufacturing semiconductors. And we have developed 2 patented processes where basically it's a non-contact. And the first one is laser cleaning. So this one is really a non-sexy problem. So basically you have some contamination happening during the assembly lines in the packaging lines, and one contamination can kill the full package or system. And basically you need a very nice solution for that. And the second one, it's wafer level laser trimming. So this one is to fix and correct the waveguides post fabrications at the OSAT, and we're fixing the front end fabrication errors. And I'll go through those two applications, and I'll try to do this in a very short fashion. So, so as the packaging goes photonics, the yield killer is really a contamination. So when you dice, when you do bonding, when you do pick and place, when you do all these steps at the OSAT, these things contaminates the dies and the packages. So here I'm showing 4 applications, and I'll show even more. But basically, for HBM, the glass, you have contamination. You have FAU and the FAU coupling. You have wire bonding bleed outs. You have optical MEMS with the small mirrors. So anytime you have contamination on those surfaces, which I would call them critical surfaces, you can kill the chips. And today, laser cleaning is not really used, or not at all used. The main status quo is those 4. So in silicon photonics, it's a lot of it is just manual wiping. So somebody would under the microscope with alcohol and Q-tips that will just wipe it, and it takes minutes. And it's super operated human-centric, and it's one of the worst job in the world. There's another one that it's wet bench, so you're basically doing a full clean, like a wet cleaning. In a plasma clean, you're basically exposing the full surface, and also you have dry ice, CO2, snow cleaning. And basically the 4 of them, you have to be a full area surface laser clean. You cannot do only one particle at a time. There's a fundamental limit there, and it's ineffective for basically many types of contamination too. So laser cleaning, it's fundamentally a dry laser cleaning. So it's fundamentally dry. We don't need any, water vapor or like liquids. So we don't need to add some liquid to the surfaces. And because we, at Femtum, we use the right pulses, we can be very selective and localized. And since it's also a fiber laser, it's really easy to integrate into a machine, a production grade machine. So laser cleaning, the way it works, so in a very 3 steps. So you take an image, you do the inspection. You basically using algorithms and a computer vision, you locate the particle, you create this defect map, and then you do localized ablation using short pulses. So it's selective by using the right wavelength, but it's targeted using software. So let me show 2 videos here. So I'll drop so here it's a cleaning process within the machine. So you're basically raster scanning, let's say, a surface, and you had done AOI before, and basically after you have a very selective laser ablation. This is what we're looking at the grating coupler. It's basically the output coupler where you have the fiber going inside the chip, and basically that surface needs to be pristine clean because otherwise you would just burn the die. So let me show a second video. So this is actual speed. So it's a point scanning speed, and it's a very fast process. Basically, you can do any shapes, and I'll go through this for the next slides. So the laser cleaning, since it's galvo base and it's a point scanning base, you can do any shapes. So in this case, what you see on the left side, we can clean many types of contamination, but also in a very arbitrary shapes. And the second thing that we have seen is when you have these ELSFP lasers, you have these output couplers where you have suspended silicon waveguide in the air, and you have bleed outs of epoxies coming on top, and then we can do very selective laser ablation of that. So those are very, let's say, matured up for applications where we help recover yield for silicon photonics. And you have also other applications where you have fingerprints on glass. You have it's organic contamination on glass, or dust particle on glass, things like that we can clean very effectively. And on the right side, what you look is a microlens array. So it's another optical coupler. So one of the way is to do expanded beam technology for the co-package optics, and the cleaning of that surface is very important, because then otherwise you would kill the full co-package optics. Finally, on the laser cleaning, there's other use case too. So on the optical MEMS, so basically you have a mirror and you have a micron scale particles that we can clean. And finally, on the gold pads, when you're doing the EIC attached on the PIC wafer, you have bleed out coming from the gold pads, coming onto the gold pads, and that bleed out can be selectively ablated using our laser technologies. That was the first thing about laser cleaning. So, and just to summarize, laser cleaning, it's basically selective ablation, localized point scanning. And we are using also, we push air, so clean dry air, and we have a vacuum that sucks up the particles afterwards. Now, the second problem that we're targeting is the photonic die yield. So in R&D, a lot of silicon photonics, the yield is like 0% or 5%, 10%. And in production nowadays, it's between 50 and 80%. And fundamentally, the reason why is because the front-end tools makes, few nanometers process variations on the waveguide. So the width, the height, the angles, the surface roughness is not as precise as it should be. So nowadays, what you need to do this, so to make a silicon photonics work, you need to use thermal phase shifters. A thermal phase shifter is basically a micro heater that you basically power up 24/7, and you need to calibrate it to synchronize the optical response of each waveguide inside those phase-sensitive structures. Those thermal phase shifters can consume in these datacom chips up to 30% of the energy of a datacom chip, especially for the slow and wide. The thing also, it's another bottleneck is the fact that these things need to be calibrated, and it takes a lot of time, so 1 to 10 minutes. And the reason why is because every time you tune up one Mach Zehnders or one macro ring or one structure, you have thermal crosstalk that affects the other structure. And of course, using thermal phase shifters it makes the chips more complex. You have all the circuitry, you have the controller chips, you have to cool the chips. You have a lot of complexity coming from the thermal phase shifters. So at Femtum, what we have developed, it's a Femtum laser trimming. So we provide the laser, the software, the direct integration into a wafer level tester. And basically, you do the first test, you apply I'll show this, but it's really a precise application. It's adapted for PICs. It's only for PICs. It's automated and it's inline. So the way it goes, I'll show the video. So you basically first do the test. So now what you're seeing is the first slide. So we're testing a non-balanced Mach Zehnders. And as you can see, there's a target line here. The optical response, it's off. So there's a drift here. And then you will see here, we're going to shoot inline laser stress rods on side of the waveguides, which create a refractive index change, in turn fixing for set once and forget the silicon photonics die, and now it's spot on target. So this you can do at scale. It's super fast, super accurate. And Femtum, we provide the full laser suite, hardware, software, process, IP to make that job done. And of course, this work was done in collaboration with Facontech and Exfo, two of our very nice partners. So. And this is a very nice paper that we published at OFC this year. So it was the first ever a full circuit trimming. So it was done with IMEC. And basically, you have a Vernier filter using 2 silicon nitride rings. And basically, when you fab them, you have these very hazardous response. So you see that the response of all the rings are a bit all over the place. And what we've done, so using the laser trimming, we can fix the optical response to make them spot on at 1550 and make those very nice Vernier filters. And the accuracy was sub 10 picometers, so the process is very accurate. So at Femtum, we fix PICs, and we provide, it's not only the laser source, so we have a suite of laser sources, but we have also the optical heads, we have the software, we have also the IP, so we have like 11 patents on the processes, and we're keeping pushing them. And we have a business model where we basically take the samples in, we have 5 app labs, we do the process development, and then at the end of the day, we don't want to disrupt your testing lines, so we just want to add on onto those machines. So we'll put these subsystem as rack mount fiber laser systems into the wafer level tester that you have. So we have a Femtum inside play. So thank you very much. And basically, you have our info here. And what we can do for you, I mean, just expose and what you can do for us. We are very looking now, since we're a bit more verticalized, we're looking a lot for these new advanced technologies to make laser cleaning and laser trimming works. So the optics, we are looking for nice AOI system on the, let's say, vision for softwares. So there's a lot of technologies we're looking for. We're looking for partners. We are expanding into Asia. So we have a lot of business in Asia and the US. So there's a lot of way that you can help Femtum. We can help the industry using laser trimming and process and cleaning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Louis-Rafael, for the presentation. We have question from Cedric.
Thank you, Louis-Rafael, for the presentation. Again, a question on positioning accuracy. What typical positioning accuracy can you achieve with the galvos?
The galvos right now are below 100 nanometer 3 sigma. So it's very, very accurate, and we can make it even more accurate. We're working on this. So we're actually limited by the mechanics and the vibrations of the full system. So the XYZ, the stage, and like those things. So that's what we're working on. But fundamentally, the galvos are very accurate.
Celia?
Thanks.
Hi, Louis-Rafael. Two questions. First one, did you have problem in getting galvo that can go to your wavelength, or did you get some customized galvo, or you found them on shelves? And second question, for the trimming and the cleaning, you're using nanosecond, or you're already in the ultra-fast regime?
Thank you for the questions. For the first question, actually, I mean, CO2 lasers at 10 micron, and you have like 2 micron and 1 micron and 1.5. So let's say all the CO2 lasers, let's say optics, of course, the AR coatings would not work at, you know, the 3 micron wavelength. So you have to use that. But I mean, metallic mirrors at this power level works greatly. And a lot of the optics, actually, there's a lot of custom design on the optical side. So the optics, the objective. So we have done our own designs on this. So this to come. So yeah, I mean, they are available from you know, wide, you know, very good suppliers. They are available galvo scanners that works at our wavelengths and that we buy on a, you know, mini. The second question on the pulse durations about the applications. So right now, where we put ourselves in the industry, and I think for the laser processing people, I think people knows that, but fundamentally, the pulse parameters like pulse duration, wavelength, repetition rate, like how do we do that job? We don't share anymore, so we keep that secret. And and we really focus on solving the problem. So basically, when you have a second die, you want to trim it, you call us, and if you want to clean them, you call us, and we'll find a solution. And we have the, you know, we collaborate with Ficantech and MPI, which are number 1 and number 2 in the world for second test and packaging.
Thank you.
Yeah, Naya. I think you are muted, so let me allow to talk. Can you try again, Naya? You are muted now, so you can.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for good presentation. Have you done any tests for beam circularity and the edge of scan envelope versus the center of the envelope?
So if I understand well your question, you're asking about the beam quality on the edge of the field of view of what we do.
Correct.
Okay. So actually the scan field, the design of everything. So right now what we qualify is less than 10% variation on the beam diameter across the full field of view, and the field of view is 2.4 millimeter by 2.4 millimeter. So it's very flat. It's the optics has been optimized for doing this kind of surface.
It's not the beam optimizing, like the beam profile will be changed on the edge of the envelope, scan envelope versus the center.
Yes. So we have so we are using like a dual scan lens. So the full let's say focusing system has been optimized to make like a laser microscopy, very similar concepts. And basically even the scan length or the f theta, it's I don't remember, sorry, I like a coffee, but basically the angles are not coming at an angle, but basically we're focusing like vertically. So there's a term for that, for the f theta. So in this case, the beam quality over and across on the edge of the field of view is still less than 10% variation from the center.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Naya. And I don't see any other questions, so thank you. Again, Louis-Rafael, thank you for the great presentation today. And good luck also with the processing, offering laser cleaning to the semiconductor industry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you can also write your email. So if anybody wants to reach you, they can have your email. And we can move now to our next speaker. So we have Michał Ćwikła. He's a laser microprocessing engineer at the company Fluence Technology in Poland. Fluence Technology is a company developing ultra-fast lasers, in this case in the 1 micron region. They are going to present high efficiency semiconductor processing with multi-megahertz repetition rate. So Michał, you can share your screen and the floor is yours.
Antonio, thank you for a kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. And yeah, I'm representing Fluence Technology. Fluence is a laser manufacturer. We produce high-power femtosecond lasers. And today, I want to share you our fresh internal results concerning semiconductor processing. So the company was founded in 2016, and it is located in Poland. And we hire more than 50 people, and we are ISO certified in terms of medical devices and environmental, for example. We also have application lab in which we do the feasibility study for our clients. And we offer mainly two products. The first one is Jasper X1, which is our high-power version laser that emits 200 microjoule pulses with 1 micron wavelength, and the average power is up to 60 watts. So what is unique about the source is the advanced POD module and also custom envelope burst capability. Second product is nice solution for low power applications. In terms of micromachining, it could be metal processing and emits up to 5 microjoule energy in single pulse, but the unit is very small. So we offer our laser is capable of doing multiple material processing tasks, for example, cleaving, TGV, surface structuring, welding, in volume writing, no taper drilling, and various kind of ablation-based processes. So today I want to share you results that are process silicon and silicon carbide. The system for this test was Jasper X1, so our strongest light source, and the beam delivery system is standard galvo-based system. Our laser is having a nice temporal shape of the pulses with no pedestals, which is critical for many material processing applications. So we can tune our laser to work in the burst mode. So instead of one strong pulse, we emit multiple smaller sub-pulses. We can tune up to 100 sub-pulses in single burst. And what is unique is that there are a lot of sub-pulses, and we can also tune the energy of each sub-pulse individually. So we can create some custom envelope of this sub-pulses package. Beginning with silicon results, we did fundamental studies about the ablation efficiency of the silicon, so this is how efficiently material is removed concerning applied energy. And for single pulse operation, we managed to reach up to 0.3, and concerning higher number of sub-pulses, we saw that the maximum value is increasing up to 0.6 for 100 sub-pulses in burst. What is also important, we didn't make the surface looks bad, because the average roughness of the surface it was comparable to single pulse operation, and also we didn't notice a strong redeposition or heat affected zone in this regime. Concerning second application, we did drilling tests. And here you can see that increasing the number of pulses per burst results in reducing the drilling through time. And for 60 pulses in burst, we managed to produce hole with just 12 bursts in 300 micrometer silicon wafer, and this correlates to 140 microseconds per single hole. So applying our 50-watt laser power source and advanced POD system, we managed to produce 7,000 holes per second in this approach. With this approach, with 60 pulses per burst in silicon, we managed to produce not only high efficiency but also high quality of the holes, with no heat affected zone, no cracking, and low taper of the holes. And going to silicon carbide. So we also here did fundamental studies concerning ablation efficiency in functional pulse, Fluence pulse. And we also found that the single pulse operation is the optimal Fluence is for higher pulse values, pulse Fluence values, and we managed to reach up to 0.1. However, when operating with 88 pulses per burst, we managed to nearly double the ablation efficiency, maximum ablation efficiency. And we also tested various pulse duration. And for this application, the femtosecond regime works best, because maximum efficiency can be obtained for 200 femtosecond. In this case, we also evaluated the surface quality, and the surface looks different in operating in pulse long pulse trains. However, the surface roughness is still comparable to single pulse operation, which is approximately 1 micrometer SA. So this is nice because we can double the ablation efficiency of the process and therefore the productivity. We also did the drilling tests here. We took 130 micrometer wafer, silicon carbide wafer. And here we observed that also the increasing number of pulses per burst results in dropping the drilling through time. So we managed to drop the by factor of 3 comparing to single pulse operation. And what is also very important, and we were surprised by that results, is that for single pulse operation, we didn't manage to produce hole with good quality. So always there were chipping of the bottom surface and the material deposition and some thermal unwanted effects. And even for 10 pulses per burst, we didn't manage to produce nice quality. However, when increasing for more than 20 pulses, not only the drilling through time was good, but the quality was the best for this parameter set. So we found that this in this really shows the potential this long megahertz bursts. And applying advanced POD, we managed to drill 1,000 holes per second in this 130 wafer. This is real-time video of the drilling. As you can see, it's single frame, so I could cheat you and show the photo, but it's a video of the cross section. And here you can see that the repability of the hitting every spot comebacking to every spot is very good because we used advanced POD system. So this this allows to have nice accuracy of triggering a laser. And before the conclusion, I just want to show you some demonstration sample that we made. This is silicon wafer, and this was ablated to form some kind of labyrinth and a through hole in the top, as you can see, nice no taper, and the needle for comparison. And here we did we put just droplet of water and see if it could find a way out, let's say. Okay, so it's doing very well. Few more seconds. Okay, so having some second thoughts. Can do it. Yeah, okay, finally. So to conclude, we found that during these studies, we found that femtosecond regime works best for processing silicon carbide, comparing to picosecond. And also long megahertz bars trains can double the removal rate. The laser, the bar system is tuned to for 50 nanosecond intervals to avoid the plasma shielding. And what is also very nice, we found that we could avoid cracking and chipping during the drilling process. And we managed to obtain the ablation rates comparable to bars, to gigahertz bars operation, but keeping the quality on the very good level that is usually seen for single pulse operation. So thank you for attention today, and thank you, EPIC, for inviting us. One more word maybe about what you can do and what we can do. So we can deliver laser system, obviously, laser source. And we are open for different kinds of laser components in general, but also concerning some application, we are open for some exotic optical elements, some not trivial beam delivery system, and some new applications for that, and also a project collaboration, international project collaboration. So thank you once again for attention.
Thank you very much, Michał. So we have time again for questions. Yeah, Cedric.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I might have missed the information. What is a typical pitch you can achieve for the different hole arrays that you've presented?
So let me go to this. So it depends actually on the beam delivery, but in this case it was 50 micrometer, some kind of that value.
And when you write hole arrays like that, it's one by one, or it's like you can drill the whole array at the same time by beam splitting or some sort of
Yeah, this is possible. We often do multiple raster scanning, so to utilize a high repetition rate and high speed of the scanner. When we typically would do some kind of that matrix, we would scan the raster lines over the area to deliver to each hole one pulse, and then come back to the beginning and do the raster scanning once again. And when using advanced POD, this is the precise triggering is possible to hit the same spot once again. Yeah.
So have you ever characterized the spot-to-spot size, pitch uniformity or distribution?
So we didn't quantify, as I recall. I'm not sure. Maybe you can email maybe me to maybe give some specific value, but for us, if it looks round, not elliptical, we see that this is going well. But if you ask specific value, I would have to check, colleagues.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Cedric. I have another question from Martin.
Yeah, hello, Michał. I have a question. If you use these advanced pulse on demand, what is the timing jitter you need to take into account? So when you're scanning fast, this translates in a lateral jitter. What is the timing jitter you can achieve here?
So it's hard to me to give you a specific value once again, but we do often scanning with few meters per second using the scanner up to, let's say, 10, 50, maybe 15, sorry. So usually those kind of values. So for this regime, it looks it work good.
It still look round, okay.
Yeah. But higher value maybe could be possible. I'm not sure actually, because I work up to 10 actually.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't see any other question from Michał. So thank you again for the presentation today and showing the examples with the megahertz births.
Thank you very much.
And we can continue now with our next speaker. So it's a pleasure to have here Robert Kirchner. He's the CEO and the co-founder of the company Heteromerge. Heteromerge is developing different solutions for 3D printing based on two-photon polymerization. And he's going to present today the self-aligned optical assembly using single freeform 3D printing process. So Robert, the floor is yours. We don't hear you now,
Right.
perhaps.
Yes, now you should hear me. Okay.
Okay. Now we hear you. Yeah.
It's a pleasure to join this meeting, and a little bit different from the previous speakers. I'm going to talk a little bit about an assembly technology, basically for optics. So a self-aligned process. I hope you will see how it works. So it's a 3D printing process, and basically it's enabled by lasers, but it's also for lasers and applications. So maybe this is a joint topic here. So in a nutshell, what is Heteromerge is a spin-off from the university in Dresden, Germany, so TU Dresden. So we're in the eastern part of Germany. We are founded 2023, and we have sales support or offices, you may say, in France for the French, Spanish, and Italian-speaking region, and for US mainly at the West Coast, because it's a very important area, so to say, for us. We have about 45 users worldwide of our core product we have developed so far. It's a multi-material printing solution, and we are using this application more, or this technology now, more and more towards a fabrication of optics. So most of our customers, and we're very thankful to them, are in the academic field. So some of them you see here. So they have helped us to develop this technology really to a very mature point. And now we're using this, as mentioned, much more in the optics production. But maybe one step back to think about, or to talk about, what is it used for? And just if you think about classical optical assembly, even to some small devices, usually you take multiple materials. We call it materials for multiple lens glasses assembled into a barrel, if you think about a camera lens system. So it's multiple lenses assembled, mechanical fixtures, everything in one. So it's a kind of, you have to do the fabrication first, obviously, then you have to place it from different sources, align everything, and depending on how small you want to get, it could be more tricky and getting more expensive and slower. Finally, you have to freeze it, so to say, in place, and then you package everything, and then you're done. And at some point, if you have very intricate, complex designs or very small devices, you cannot overcome this, or you can't do this simply. So we thought about what we have a solution for is do this assembly in one run. So we say do not assemble, print instead. That's our slogan. So we print the whole optical system, basically the lenses, the mechanical parts, and everything you need from different materials. Obviously, that makes only sense if you do assembly from different materials, and that is our core technology. So we print. We have a solution to swap the printing material, so that's the way we can print fully optical systems. So we do the whole integration in one single process flow, one single process. So how does this work? So in a short dive, The technology behind, we haven't developed it. We're just using the printers. Basically, it's a 2-photon polymerization process. So basically, it's a nonlinear process that focuses near-infrared light into a very tight volume also called voxel, and that triggers a nonlinear process where you can get from this near-infrared light a polymerization in the UV range and for line widths that are in the range of 100, 150 nanometer. You get very high precision printing, so you can really print optical quality surfaces. And what we're doing, we're taking this immersion lithographies. At the end, it's immersion solution. So the optics, the lens that focus the laser is immersed in the liquid. So what we are doing is we are swapping basically the liquid without doing any mechanical movement. So only the liquid is swapped, and that gives you the ultimate alignment precision. So we come to that a bit later. But what you get is having one material. And if you think about a triplet of 2 materials, you have the first material for the first lens. So print the entire first, in this case, refractive spherical surface. Then you swap the material, you print the entire second lens, which is the central core of the triplet. And then you swap again, because I have 2 materials, you go back to the very first material and print the entire third lenslet. And that is perfectly aligned on the optical axis. All right, so this is what we do and how it works. A bit more in detail is you have a fluid delivery system, basically, that injects liquid into this immersion situation. So a little bit like in immersion lithography, like a shower head, if you think about this, but not as complicated. But basically you inject liquid and that will blow up basically your printing volume, and you don't want that. You have a synchronized withdrawal of that liquid. So imagine you print like a SLA 3D printer on steroids, so super high resolution, but the same thing you print into a liquid bath or liquid wet, and you just swap out this liquid bath in a very fast way. So that's what you see in a nutshell here. So this is the printing spot or area, and here in the center you see where the laser is really printing. So we're talking about very small optics below 3-4 millimeter in size, and you swap out the material and it can go back and forth, and you have the ultimate precision in alignment that you keep. So I said we did a lot of hardware development in the last 3 years. So we have that hardware now ready. We sell this and provide it to customers that have printers, 2-photon printers. There's an add-on components on it as well. And we are moving much more to what you see on the right-hand side now, doing this printing service first and doing the integration of the whole system. So we have own printing materials if it comes to integrating dye centers, so quantum dots or fluorescent dyes. But mainly we are focusing now for the industry partnerships, we're focusing on the printing service and doing the integration with our partners together. So I have a few examples on that, and that is the lens stack I have shown you before. It's a bit more in detail. So you really see 3 spherical surfaces from 2 different materials. It's about 50 to 100 micrometer in diameter, but can be also much bigger. You'll see this later. And we print the first lens, swap the material, second lens, swap the material, third lens, and that's it. One development, final run, and your lens assembly, now we're talking really about assemblies, is ready to be used in a very compact way. And we had this before, so of course, there's different questions. First question is, how smooth can the surface be? What is the wavelength range that is applicable? So the surface can be down to below 10 nanometer surface roughness. So you're addressing visible light to IR light. So that is really attractive. Because of the alignment, we can get on-axis alignment or lateral decenter, if you wish, so below 50 nanometer in any case. So it will be a 3 sigma value. In most cases, so 1 sigma would be below 25 nanometers. And another question is, how good is the adhesion? The adhesion is, because it's in situ, we call it in situ swapping of the material. So it's very high because you bring basically very reactive surfaces. You combine reactive materials with a similar backbone, the acrylic chemistry, for example. So the adhesion is very good. Actually, we never saw a failure between the materials. There's always a failure to the surface. So it could be silicon glass, but it never fails between the materials. And it doesn't matter whether they're in direct contact or whether they're stacked with some spacers. So this is a summary basically of things that we did with partners and our pilot customers did. So if I go through step by step, starting from rather small or a bit bigger than we saw before, but still small, about 0.5 millimeter Fraunhofer achromatic system. So basically have two lenses, like a negative and a positive lens combined together, also spherical surfaces in this case, from two commercial materials with very interesting dispersion properties. So we can make an achromatic system. And you see a little bit in the insert, if you go for 500, 600, and 700 nanometer light, and you focus through a single lenslet, so a singlet element, you will get a strong, rather strong focus shift of about 25 to 50 micrometer along the axis. And if you do a corrected achromatic design with two materials, two lenses, you focus for, in this case, 700 nanometer and 500 nanometer. The 600 nanometer is not fully corrected because of the two materials, two lenses you have available. But it's much better. And if you have more lens elements, you can do much finer correction. You get a very precise achromatic correction. So you see already all these applications behind is application that call for broad optical input. So for visible light or NIR light, but still a broad optical input where you exploit the correction. Another example is an hexagon consisting of two materials. If you want to have a ring focus or bezel beam generation, where you have with one single hexagon, which would be the top one, the blue phosphor-colored material here, you have, of course, a broad input and you get a splitting of the spectrum, obviously. And if you combine it again with the different material, but the same two you had before that are very suitable in dispersion, you get a very chromatic, corrected focal beam shaping, so to say. This is very light materials. You might say, okay, all these transparent materials, all very like. I agree. Nevertheless, don't forget the optical index is really, really different for the materials. And here's a material that's really different that was done with the partners. In the center is a spherical lens, and at the outside is a black material, which is an aperture material. It's also fully printed. And there's still options. You can say, well, I can insert this barrel, that opaque barrel, in any other way. But imagine you're really talking about a setup of lenses, like you see a little bit down here, really stacked, where you don't want only stray light apertures, where you also want the imaging apertures integrated. And there's no way you can put that at the end. You have to put this at a certain imaging plane in between the lens assembly, and then you have to print it from this material. So depending on the design, that's something you can really insert in your print. You print materials, you swap for a black material, insert the black material, and you continue printing. Two more questions, a bit more about our applications. If this is also possible for lateral assembly, that would be typical photonics integration, edge coupling scenario. Of course, you saw all these vertical stacks is for vertical coupling also available. And if you have a broadband application with some edge coupling, we can also print this to the edge of assemblies, and then you print one lens, one material, another lens, other material, and you can swap the materials. You can also print this laterally. There's no limit to the geometry basically you do. And we can do this up to 2 millimeter at the moment because that's what our printer is limited to. Other systems can go up to 3.5 millimeter, close to 4 millimeters. And you see assembly of about 1 millimeter lens combination of a material down here, first spherical surface, and another more complicated surface following on top. This example is what I mentioned is we can go for us, very big in one print, 2 millimeter now, and potentially later soon in 3 to 4 millimeter without any stitching. So it's a full lens printed with highest optical quality up to 2 millimeter without any stitching for this material. So what you can do at the end, you integrate optical systems in a very compact way. And because it's a printing, there's no complexity, basically you cannot print. So it's a very fast prototyping, first of all, technology with very short iteration cycles where we really talk about optical systems in weeks instead of a month. but it is a technology that can really scale up to much higher throughput. So then we're talking about really fabrication. And whereas this is interesting, in one area we have looked in is a laser-based scanning in AR display application. So we have if you want to do it very compact, you try to take a photonic integrated circuit, for example, that has already RGB lasers integrated. They have some output. You might want to change the output shape, or you just want to collimate the light and shape it in a very efficient way so it is ready for your input rating, for example, or for your holographic combiner of your glasses, so really the glass part. And you make, usually at the moment, you have to take off-the-shelf components, and that makes it very bulky. But if you want to do the ultimate integration, we think it makes a lot of sense to think the chip is ready, highly integrated. Why not making the optics also equally or equally performant in terms of size? And then you bring it to the chip and very close to the chip. And that's what we're looking to at the moment. So as a takeaway, and the epic question that is always there is, what do we contribute? So this is obviously providing an integration, very innovative technology for integrating microsystems, mostly optical microsystems. So we focus a lot on optical. And so this, with that way of printing instead of assembling, you really bring down the size. So that accuracy I mentioned of sub 50 nanometer positioning accuracy, it holds from 2 millimeter lenses diameter down to, if you make a lens, a spherical lens, maybe 10 micrometers, the smallest you can do. Below it's no lens really anymore. So anything down to a few 10 micrometer, you have the same precision available. Design freedom is basically, if you want to say so, a provocative way, the sky is the limit. So there's no limitation in shape, aspherical or very complex freeform surfaces. The cycle time gets much shortened because you have only one tool, one technology. You just print the design, you optimize design, and then it's ready. And it also brings down, of course, the prototyping costs, but also think about the fabrication costs, because there's no tooling, no self-alignment involved at the end. So it's enabling technology for optics integration in industry. Do not assemble it, print it instead. And of course, this is something we are very small. We can't do this alone, but I think it's a very interesting pathway you want to follow. But we are really looking for your challenges in optics integration that we can solve by printing the whole optical assembly. So we are happy for any ideas you have shooting at us if this is possible, and looking forward to your contact. So as we always say, ultimately, probably nobody wants to make a church. That's the Frauenkirche, iconic structure of our city, to print on a VCSEL. But that is basically the limit. So no limit in design, freedom in materials, the combination, very tight integration onto VCSELs, for example. So just have a talk and see what we can do together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robert. We have time for one question for Robert. Yeah, Torsten, sorry.
Yeah, two questions. One is, do you have issues with optical losses between the different surfaces if you do such a two-lens design? And second question is, can you apply optical coatings on the outer surfaces?
So if this outer surface, maybe start with the last one, with the outer surface is accessible, then you can do coatings. But it will be most likely always an atomic layer deposition process, because you have a lot of hidden overhanging structures, basically. So it's classical non-ALD coating is probably a limit or cannot be used. And if talking about lens to lens losses, so if they are in direct contact, if they're not in contact, you have air and any coating that defines the losses. And if you have the lens together in contact, it's basically because it's not possible to do an atomic smooth interface, so from one material to the others. You have actually, that helps a lot to have some very small but some transition range you have between the materials. And then you have the Fresnel losses basically you have between the refractive index materials, because there's nothing you can do unless you print some buffer layer with another material in between, which would be certainly possible. But the refractive index you combine basically determines the losses.
Thanks.
I see another question for Cedric. So
Yes, thank you for the presentation. You mentioned that you are able to print on edge. Do you have the technology to locate and align to edge-coupled waveguides?
The alignment at the moment we have to do by markers that are visible from the top. So the lens is usually larger than the waveguide cross section. So then you can also, so you cannot see the waveguide directly. So we see the top, we know where the waveguide is in relative to the top and in relative to markers. That is what we can do for alignment.
Thank you.
It's not an active alignment using the waveguide itself.
Yeah.
good. So thank you very much, Robert, for the great presentation. And again, if you can write your email in the webinar chat,
yes, thank you.
People can contact you afterwards. And we can go now to our final speaker for this afternoon. So we have Martin Pastor, Vice President of Sales and Marketing at the company Luxinar. Luxinar is a company with a long experience in CO2 lasers, also ultrafast department, and now within the TRO group offering a really broad amount of different solutions. And he's going to present some examples for pulse core laser pulse control in semiconductor application. So Martin, thank you very much for being here, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Antonio, and thanks very much for inviting us. So we have heard now a lot about different processes, and with my talk, I want now to focus a little bit on yield, quality, and speed, and how important it is to have a laser pulse control in semiconductor applications to boost these parameters. Yeah. Okay. Now it's moving. Okay, so what I'm talking about today, first I will dive a little bit into challenges for laser manufacturing in the semiconductor industry. Then I want to make a little exercise and have a look at the relation of laser stability and production yield that we have. I want to give you a little bit of an overview. What is our focus in this very big field of laser manufacturers? I want to show you what is this pulse core laser control that we have developed. And finally, I want to give you two examples. One example where the energy stability is very important, and the other one where the timing stability is very important. So let's get started with the challenges for the manufacturing in the semiconductor industries. And we have seen a lot of examples already this afternoon. For example, if you take a 4K UHD display, it has almost 25 million LED chips on this single display. And you need a crazy high yield. If you have a crazy high yield, for example, from 99.999%, you still have almost 250 defective LED chips on a monitor. And this really puts a lot of stress on the production equipment and on the manufacturing, because you can see if your yield in the manufacturing just drops a little bit, you're producing a lot of crap and you don't have a lot of good components. Let's stay in the LED manufacturing. A second challenge for the manufacturers is, in the past, we were talking conventional LEDs that are size of 100 micron to 1 millimeter. Now we are talking micro LEDs that range from in the range of 1 micrometer up to 30 micrometer. So we need much more precision here at the same. And in the next, we already got the example for the through glass vias. An 8-inch wafer has 9 million through glass vias to be installed. This means you need a crazy fast processing time. Otherwise, the process will never get cost effective. Yeah, you see, even if I do 1,000 holes per second, it will take 150 minutes to drill these 9 million TGVs into the hole. So you need to be very fast at the same time. And the third or the last one is, of course, for example, in silicon processing, you always need to develop new wavelengths, new technologies, new ideas to make the next breakthrough technology. And what does this now mean for the laser manufacturer? We already had the example with the LED screen with the 25 million pixels. You need really excellent process stability. This is really the key for the yield in the production. You need this very high sub-micron precision, and this asks for advanced and process skills from the manufacturer. You need this crazy high process speed because it's so many components on one device. So here productivity really matters. And the last one, innovation for new processes, for new technologies, like using mid-infrared femtosecond lasers like we've already seen before. To get you a little bit more aware why I'm always talking about so much about yield. We're talking about now, like any laser process you have a statistic distribution of your laser parameter, be it energy, be it pulse-to-pulse stability, be it the timing between the two pulses. You always get a statistic distribution of your laser parameter. And in the process, you always have a field, an acceptance range, where your part is considered a good part. If I apply the laser and it is inside the green box, you can say it is a good part. If I'm on the outside, I'm creating faulty parts. So the idea is now to get as much as possible, to enlarge the green box as much as possible to create less and less faulty parts. And now it is very hot and it is now a complicated diagram, but we can manage together. What I show here is on the y-axis, I show you the average number of defects on a device that has, for example, 1 million components. Yeah, and on the x-axis below, I show you the green box. If the green box is 2% from the, or 3%, 4, 5, or 6% from the average laser parameter. And what we are looking now, and the bars that I've printed here for you, show you how many defects will a laser with a stability of 1%, 2%, 3%, or 4% produce if the green box has the size like it is shown here below. And the important takeaway, and this is a bit surprising, because if we now compare a laser with a stability of 1% to a laser of a stability 2%, one might say, okay, it could produce probably 2 times the defective parts. But look at this area. If we look here, the laser with the 1%, you get less than 1 defective device per component. And the laser with the 2%, you end up with more than 10,000 defective parts. And this is very important to have in the back of your mind, that the stability of the laser really, really matters once it goes to yield. Yeah. And while this laser might be acceptable, this laser probably is not. And this brings me to the next slide, and this is where to focus in the semiconductor industry. And for a laser manufacturer, there's 2 different ways where you can focus. You can enter the race for the maximum power. And this is not what we do, but the Luxinar way is we go the way we want to maximize control and stability. Because of the chart I've just shown to you, we believe, and our experience is, this will bring much more benefit to the industry than bringing a laser that has, again, 20% more output power. So what does Luxinar provide for this? And we call this pulse core technology, and I could talk for an hour and a half if we had the time, but I will want to make it very short. Pulse core is a combination of features that we have put to the laser, and I want to bring it down to 3 simple points. Pulse core is the most precise fastest way with the highest stability in both amplitude and timing to control laser pulses. This is what we are standing for, and this is what our focus in development is for. What does this mean for you? It means fast pulse energy switching. You can switch pulse energy from pulse to pulse. Of course, if you can control any pulse, you can also control the first pulse perfectly good. It gives you a smart pulse control. We name this because you have the complete freedom of a pulse on demand combined with amplitude modulation that you can do from pulse to pulse. So you have complete freedom as well as in the energy range as well as in the temporal range. And a very important point, and this is where we put a lot of effort into, pulse-to-pulse stability is greatly increased by this technology. We typically have a 50% better pulse-to-pulse stability compared to our competitor. And in the slide before, you've seen this can bring up, for example, production yields up by a factor of 10,000. And this can really be a big thing. Now, two very quick examples. This is one example that is something that is there for years. Yeah? I'm talking here about soft wafer marking on silicon. A lot of people have tried it. It is you're melting some dots inside or on top of the silicon area. It is a process with a very small process window. You need to control the depths of these this dents you're making to the surface to a sub-micron precision. And the whole process needs to be completely debris-free. And with this pulse core technology, we have really unprecedented repeatability for this process. So this is something where the pulse-to-pulse stability of this laser, which is far below 1%, really is the big differentiator and just makes this process possible. And the second one is, again, the example with the TGVs that we have seen before. It has super high speed requirements. We are drilling one hole in 200 nanoseconds. And the thing is, we need 9 million holes. So we need to drill on the fly because we cannot stop the beam or the target, because the time required to stop the galvo and move the galvo again will ruin the whole process. Yeah. So, and if, for example, we take a beam speed of 10 meters per second, which is what scanners can achieve, this, on the other hand, will now require pulse on demand, because they are not the vias you want to do. They are not in a fixed pattern, but they are in a random pattern. So you need to be able to control the firing of the laser with a high precision. And if I take the target precision, lateral accuracy, what is required in the more advanced ones, which is 2 micron in a 6 sigma, you're ending up with a maximum trigger to light jitter of 33 nanoseconds. So you need to have a pulse on demand mode that can deliver you the laser with 33 nanosecond. And on the right-hand side, you see here now how the result looks like. In order to being really fast, we are drilling very small holes with a super small taper. You see it is a 550 micron glass. We are drilling a 2 micron holes through it, and the taper is less than 800 nanometer on a 550 micron hole. So the hole is really very, very straight. The reason why we do it, if we make the hole bigger, you end up with this egg timer shape, which is absolutely not acceptable in the industry. The process is usually followed by some etching. And with so you're just making the initial holes, and then you could put it to parallelize the process again, put it in the bath, put it to the etching, and etch it to the diameter that you want to have it. Yeah, that's my 2 examples. And I come to my conclusion. What we can offer is this pulsed core technology which is essential to optimize the production yield in these semiconductor applications. Our pulse code technology offers the highest level of pulse laser control. And what I ask you is contact us for two reasons. The first thing is, if you have applications that can benefit from using this pulse core technology, you are very welcome to contact us, but also the other way around. If you have technologies that can contribute to this laser control or stability that we are doing, we will also be very interested to make a connection and discuss about ways how maybe to even further improve the laser technology that we have in-house. And with this, I'm on my last slide. Thank you very much for attending. Antonio, thank you very much for inviting me here.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you for the presentation and for giving us this point of view of how to control also the characteristics of the laser. So we have time for the questions for this final speaker. I have perhaps a question regarding the combination of your technology with the beam shaping technology that we discussed at the beginning. So I don't know if you explore how your pulse control technology combine it with beam shaping, that is a topic that we hear a lot in different applications to improve the efficiency on the process, can also go in the direction of having more and more control of the process. I don't know if it's something that you explore at Luxinar, or for the moment you focus in the development or on your technology.
Yeah, we are not developing these beam shaping technologies, but of course it is also a very good and essential combination. For example, you use a laser flat top because your process window is so small and you cannot work with a Gaussian beam because you will probably damage underlying layers. And so you're moving to a flat top, and you move into the flat top for the reason that you need to have more energy control. And I'm combining the flat top with the possibility to even better control the pulse energy. This will be a double benefit on the process. So yes, our lasers are very successfully used in combination with the beam shaping also.
And do you think this pull course technology will be used in the different lasers you have in your portfolio, or perhaps will be for some selected products that are more directed to these applications you mentioned?
No, we don't have this in the CO2 lasers. But we have this in the nanosecond and femtosecond lasers that we are producing.
Okay, so both nanosecond and femtosecond.
Yes.
Okay, very good. I don't know if there is any other question now. I don't see it, so perhaps, Martin, you can also write your email in the webinar chat, so if anybody's interested, can contact you afterwards. So thank you again for the nice presentation and for being here this afternoon. And you saw the screen with some questions that you can answer to help us to improve our meetings for the future. Thank you for being here this afternoon. Sorry for the issues with my computer at the beginning, but we have really very nice presentations with different points of view. I hope you have some interesting insights. If there is any speaker or any person that you want to discuss afterwards, feel free to send me an email to make the connection by email. And well, I wish you a great afternoon, everybody, and I hope to see you soon in another epic event. Thank you, everybody, and good afternoon. Thank you for being here today with us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Thorsten. Thank you, Martin, Robert.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Natan.